It's never a shock when a newer phone can outperform an older phone, but the question of whether or not someone should upgrade requires just a bit more nuance. Skipping over the number 4, the OnePlus 5 is the fastest selling phone this manufacturer has yet released. Improved internals, a controversial, new design, and some interesting camera choices. Might that be enough to convince OnePlus fans to part with their cash for a 1-year, or in some cases, a 6-month upgrade? It's time for a showdown. Well, let's kick this off with the most contentious part of this comparison: design. With each successive generation of phone, it seems this company is further inspired by competitors. The OnePlus 3 arrived with a clear HTC and Apple blend of design accents, but still managed to feel somewhat unique, barely holding on to an identity that separated it from the competition. The same really cannot be said of the OnePlus 5. There's really no kind way to say it, but even down to the location of the rear microphone, there are few devices which can be accused of a more direct iPhone flattery. At least OnePlus kept the headphone jack, otherwise the simulation would be complete. The 5's horizon line helps the phone feel thinner in the hand, but honestly I prefer the flatter edges on the 3, keeping a surer grip when using the camera, and for similar screen dimensions, the 5 manages to add just a bit of height. It's really no contest, we have to give the design win to the OnePlus 3. When looking at the rest of the tech, there are a lot of similarities. Both have very good 1080p AMOLED displays, plenty fine for daily use, neither that great for VR. Front-facing home button fingerprint sensors are responsive and fast. The hardware notification rockers are appreciated for a fast, tactile way to customize alerts, and we literally have not moved the needle on wireless reception in our testing around LA. The major changes come from a few key areas, the obvious year-over-year improvements. Qualcomm's newest chipset is more powerful, the storage is upgraded using faster memory chips, and now the top-of-the-line OnePlus 5 comes with 8GB of RAM over the OnePlus 3T's 6GB of RAM. Considering the state of mobile apps, you'll be delving into some very aggressive multitasking before that 2GB difference really starts affecting your usage. All of this adds up to a higher horsepower handset. No question, the 5 obviously takes a performance win. But given the 1080p resolution and the apps people are most likely to use, there's little which will truly tax the older phone. The Qualcomm 820 generation of devices are aging very well, which makes answering the upgrade question even trickier. Looking at software, both phones using a very lightly tweaked version of stock Android, this is one of the major victories for OnePlus. Oxygen OS is a wonderfully snappy, sleek, and clean interface. The major change for UI is this app drawer gesture, and we also get a snazzy new reading mode which turns any app into a near Kindle monochrome to help reduce eye strain, though any phone can be pushed into grayscale through developer options. We're calling software a draw as both phones deliver a terrific user experience. And shifting over to optics, the camera battle showcases the biggest differences between these two devices: image stabilization versus zoom. Pick your poison. On the whole, the OnePlus 5 exposes warmer and a touch brighter than the 3T, but it's still one of the more reasonable performers for keeping brightness in check. Stills from both phones look good, and even pushing into lower light, the image processing on the 5 can just about match the image stabilization on the 3T for maintaining image integrity. The big advantage for the 3T arrives when looking at UHD video. There is no stabilization on the 5, hardware or software, so while there's a little lens wobble, the 3T video is visibly superior. The focus for the 5, pun intended, was delivering more reach, a second camera sensor with the equivalent of a 2x optical zoom. The smaller sensor and higher resolution can make even daytime shots look a little grainy. But looking at a similar crop composition from the 3T, the 5 does produce nicer looking images. You do get more reach at the far end of the zoom, but no phone looks great zooming to its limit. Dual sensors also come with the benefit of producing a software blur for the portrait mode, which is a fun effect to use. So this is a tough comparison. If you shoot video from your phone, the 3T is the superior choice. But stills are comparable, and the second sensor on the 5 provides more flexibility and fun features. The 5 ekes out a small win, but this shaky video is definitely a bummer. The audio contest returns us to a closer battle. Few are going to be much impressed by the output on a mono bottom firing speaker, and both phones are competent in that regard. It's the headphone battle which is a small victory for the OnePlus 5. The new chipset from Qualcomm now supports true 32-bit playback, and we do see very subtle improvements to quality and benchmarking. But more importantly, the headphone amp gets a small bump in output power, placing it just above the 3T and more expensive options like the Galaxy S8. OnePlus maintains an excellent reputation for audio playback. Looking at runtime, there were concerns over the OnePlus 5 shrinking the battery capacity, but the company's claims that the new chipset and lower power RAM should make up the difference seem to be accurate. The OnePlus 5 bested the 3T in our media benchmark, and neither phone had any issues making it to the late evening with moderate use. Both phones charge ridiculously fast too. This isn't just a marketing claim. A half hour on a charger should do you for the day. Any differences here are within what we would consider to be the margin of error. So let's wrap this up. Where does that leave us between the OnePlus 5 and the OnePlus 3T? The idea of a 1-year upgrade is increasingly difficult to support. Most of this comparison was obviously produced on the 3T, which is only 6 months old. But even for owners of the OG OnePlus 3, this is maybe the hardest recommendation we've yet faced when looking at year-to-year improvements. The OnePlus 5 is a better phone in most regards, but it's often better in ways which are currently difficult to detect. That an app might load a fraction of a second faster, or a user might be able to keep 2 GB more software active in RAM. The camera could be a lateral move for some folks, a downgrade for heavy video users, and the design might be a turnoff for folks who aren't fans of Apple's aesthetic. The OnePlus 5 is a solid option in its price tier and should compete well against other sub-$500 devices this year. But if you're currently rocking a OnePlus 3 or 3T, you can probably sit this one out. As always, thanks so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to this channel for more reviews and comparisons like these, and help us out with some sharing on your favorite social networks. For Pocketnow, I'm Juan Carlos Bagnell, some gadget guy on Twitter and Instagram, and I will catch you all on the next review.